All right. I see our attendee list growing.
All right.
All. Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday, August 25th. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to give a little moment and let folks join us. Hi, y'all. See some more folks coming in. Thank you for joining us this Tuesday afternoon. We're just waiting for folks to make their way into the Zoom meeting, and we'll be starting soon with some introductions, and then we want to be able to jump right in with questions. David, should we kick things off with some intros?
Yeah, let's do that. All right. Well, I'm going to start out. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Parents and Supporters Question and Answer Hour. We're having this for all new parents and welcoming you to the Golden Bear family. And we love having you. We know that some students have started remotely, and we've noticed, and some are here on campus. My name is David Ortega. I'm the Director of Parent Services and Communications, and I am a Cal alum, and I am the parent of a Cal alum. I've also worked on campus for the 28th. I just ended my 28th year, so our 27th is the start of my 28th. So I've been on campus a long time, and I love doing this because I like helping the parents who need who have questions and who would like to be welcome onto the campus. So we have a good group of people here to answer questions with you. So I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. We have 3 parents, and we also have another staff member, 2 staff members, and also 1 student. So I'm gonna have the staff member, Rose, start off, and then we'll go to parents, our student, and then our last one, Nikki Antovich.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rose Hsu, and I've been with Cal Parents for 4 years. David is the Director of Communications, and I consider myself really more the Director of Engagement. So if you're looking to stay involved with your students' college life while they're here at Berkeley, whether to volunteer or to support us philanthropically, I would be your point person. And today I'm very pleased to share with you some of our Cal Parent volunteers with us, and I'll let them introduce themselves. We have Greg, Clayton, and Lisa.
I mean, I go first?
You get to go first.
So I'm Greg. I am the parent of a transfer student who's actually now recently graduated this past May. She was also a commuter. So I kind of represent both of those communities, and my other 2 students, my other 2 kids, one just recently graduated from Cal State. She was also a transfer, and my son is in the process of tagging and doing his applications, getting ready to do his applications to the UCs.
Hi, my name is Clayton. I'm also a Cal parent of a sophomore. Like Dave, I'm an alum, and in fact, my wife is also an alum. We actually met on campus many, many years ago. And we have business that does work with the Cal campus. So we have a number of student employees as well. So we've been able to maintain engagement with the campus for a good amount of time.
Hi, and my name is Lisa Chao. I have 2 sons at Cal this year, a sophomore and a senior. And I am very fond of the whole UC system. I myself is a UCLA Bruin grad, yay. But I'm now taking classes with UC Berkeley Extension. So yeah, it's really good to be here and see everyone.
Thank you. Kaylin?
Hi everyone, I'm Kaylin. I am a campus ambassador and I am going into my third year. I start school tomorrow. I'm very, very excited. I'm happy to be here, happy to be a part of this wonderful panel, and yeah.
Well, great. Nikki?
Well, hi all. My name is Nikki Antovich. I am the Assistant Dean of Students and Director of New Student Services. It's a long title, but it means that I work with an incredible team of folks who help support the transition of new undergraduate students from when they say yes to Berkeley to their first couple weeks of the semester. Although this year we're looking to extend our support way beyond the first few weeks of the semester. So that's who I am. I'm really excited to be able to be with you all today. I know your students have, if you are a parent of a new student, just finished up Golden Bear orientation and will be starting classes. I'm actually in a moment gonna share a little bit about Golden Bear orientation, but we wanna be able to see who is here with us. So we're gonna launch a poll. I don't know if any of y'all have used that before, but in a moment you are going to see a poll up here on your page. We have a few questions because we'd like to know who you are, where you're from, so that way we can better serve you during our time together. So we'll leave this up. All right, see some responses coming in. There's a few questions. Want to know where you're from, relationship to your student. Are you a parent of a new student? If you're not, still okay. We'd love to have you here. What is the status of are you affiliated with a first year or transfer student? And where is your student planning to live this semester? Just helping us to understand kind of who you are. And once we get some of those in, we'll leave it open. Once we get those responses, we'll be able to share with you all so you can see what we're seeing here. To all my panelists, can you all see these responses or are you still waiting along with me?
We can see them.
Waiting, okay.
Oh, we can see him, Nikki.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Getting the votes. All right, we'll leave it open for just a minute or a couple seconds longer. And I would play background music, but I learned through orientation this last week that people are watching, so you could get shut down for showing live music without the proper approval. So, and I'm not a good singer, so I'm not going to start singing for you all, I've learned. All right, we are going to close up the poll in just a moment. A few more seconds. All right. I want to share some results just so you can see who's with us today. We have most of you are from Northern and Southern California, but we have folks outside the US as well. So really excited for those who are joining from other states and internationally. I'm really excited to have you all here.
Hello all.
100% of you all are parents. Okay, that makes that easy. We can work on that for our lingo. We'll be able to address that. Perfect. Most of you are parents of a new student. Okay. And then most of you are parents of a first year student, but we do have some parents of transfers here. So be on the lookout for Greg's response there for parents of transfers. And all right, and where are folks living? So most are living at home with you, but a good chunk also are living in Berkeley in the residence halls, which we saw that from the folks who tuned in with us last week. It was about 50-50. So that's really helpful. So thank you all for sharing that with us. It helps us be able to know kind of who's here with us. So that way we can answer your questions accordingly. All right, so before we start jumping in and answering questions of the group, just wanted to share for those of you who are your parents of new students, for the large majority of you. You may be wondering, what was it my student was doing for the last few days? They kept getting a lot of emails and there were late night events, there were small group meetings. Were they doing bingo at 9 p.m. at night? Yes, they might have been doing bingo at 9 p.m. at night. But we were just very happy to launch our 4th year of Golden Bear orientation. So our office supports students through their transition. Your students will have done 2 online modules before they arrive. We've been doing online modules for many years now, so that portion for us wasn't new, but switching to a virtual model of an in-person orientation was. And I am very lucky to work with over almost 500 volunteer orientation leaders, 50 orientation mentors, 5 representatives, 6 student coordinators, and 5 professional staff. We have a big team, but it's mostly full of students. So all of those students came together, and from this last Monday, Friday through today, there's still events going on today. We were able to host over, at minimum, 250 events, but that doesn't include the daily meetings with the small groups that the students had. So really hope that your students were able to engage. We had convocation on Friday with our chancellor. They had college welcomes on Friday, small group meetings every day, a lot of code names and different games being played on Zoom with the small groups, but we also were able to welcome Issa Rae. She's an Emory nominated individual. She has a show on HBO who spoke to our entire incoming class. A lot of large events and small, just to welcome your students and hopefully get them connected to the incredible resources and folks across this campus. So hope they've been having a wonderful time, and we're eager to continue supporting them over the coming months and year. So just wanted
Thank you, Nikki.
That's what's been happening.
Thank you. For your information, just some nuts and bolts of how we're doing this. We're going to ask you to ask questions on the Q&A tab there at the bottom of the screen, and you can open it up and ask any questions. We, as the Cal Parent staff, would like to offer our assistance in any type of answers, but we also have parents here. So if you have a question for a specific parent, you can ask that as well. And if you have a question for students, Kaylin can answer that question as well. So we're here for you. We want to make sure that you get your answers that you need from your questions. And so the first one I see is, one of your students is on the wait list for a class. Sometimes that's normal. We have a lot of waitlisting because we have a lot of students. And then, so what happens is people are constantly changing their schedule. Sometimes things don't work. They might need something else. They change their major, or they change the direction that they're intended on going as a freshman and sophomore. So if you're on the wait list, a lot of times that you're going to end up in that class. You just got to wait it out for a little bit. You might want to talk to the professor as well to make sure that he thinks that there will be he or she, or they think that it'll be an appropriate time for you that you can add or drop the class or what have you. Kaylin, do you want to add to that specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So one rule that I often see is that if you're in the top 15% of students on the wait list, there's a very, very good likelihood that you're going to get off the wait list. I would encourage your student to have some sort of backup class. There's a ton of different classes to fulfill the same requirements, so that shouldn't be too difficult, just in case, they don't get off the wait list.
Great, thank you. As we said, Mickey, we have a question here about will first-year students be assigned a faculty advisor?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think I want to step back a little bit and kind of clarify advisor and what does that mean at Berkeley? Because there are so many, and I think that can be probably confusing for new students, first years or transfers, whatever you may be used to. So first and foremost, every student who comes in will have an academic advisor, and that's something that I'm very proud of at Berkeley, is that you have someone tied to you that their full job is academic advising. They don't also teach on the side of things. Their job is fully to make sure to connect with students one-on-one and make sure they're feeling good, settled in classes, understanding policies, helping them navigate what classes do I take? What is this major? And that will vary. So say if you are, I believe in the College of Chemistry, you could have a cohort advising. So one advisor takes a chunk of y'all. In Rossier College of Natural Resources, they do advising by your intended major. If you are large majority, that's what I should have asked, what college your student was admitted from. That probably would have been helpful for us to know that. Maybe I'll throw out a poll in a second. If your students are within letters and science, if they are a first-year student, they're going to get their advising from a big chunk of college advisors who help support students as they navigate what does it mean to be undeclared and how do I figure this all out. And if you're a transfer within letters and science, you'll get your advising from that intended major if you haven't declared it yet. But when it comes to faculty advisors, that could really vary by major and department. Most of it, I don't think, are usually assigned. I think we're encouraging students to engage, to connect, to outreach, and whether things are official, it's saying, hey, I'd like to know you. And I know that our faculty members are really trying to adjust and to look at how they're accessible and available to students for this upcoming semester. And so we highly recommend students to drop into office hours, and maybe in this kind of virtual world that might feel a little less intimidating than walking down a hallway and knocking on a door. You just have to hop in and click that Zoom link. So we also have quite a bit of other advisors within our Educational Opportunity Program or a Transfer Student Center. So I think that there's many folks who would consider themselves advisor, but for all students, no matter what, you're going to get that academic advisor. Faculty member could vary based on your level of study and your ability to click those Zoom links or knock on doors to be able to get someone to spend some time with you.
Right. Mickey, there's a question about parents that say that they're confused about the COVID testing and flu shot requirements for students in Berkeley that are not living on campus.
Okay, I'll grab that one. I actually want to, can we quick have Kaylin fill in, kind of explain what your experience has been like with advisors?
Oh, okay, yeah, absolutely.
I want to jump to that. I saw that note there. So always good to hear from that student perspective.
Thank you so much. I've had an incredible experience with my advisors. I'm in the Rouster College of Natural Resources. So as Mickey was saying, we're broken up by our majors. My major advisor, literally one of my favorite people on campus. I could drop into his office hours whenever it need be, talk to him about anything that was going on, even if it wasn't strictly academic related. He just helped me so much. And the same has been the case, you know, with Zoom and everything, because I was able to build up that relationship. And I know a lot of people were able to build up that relationship as well. And with the Rouster College of Natural Resources, one thing that's really nice is that you're actually not allowed to register for classes until you've met with your advisor at least once a semester. So that really helps build that relationship and make sure that, you know, hey, we're all on some level of footing here.
And a little bit different is the College of Letters and Science, which is a very big, it's our biggest college. So your student usually will have a Letters and Science advisor, and that's on their Cal Central page. And then they will also, once they declare a major, they will have a major advisor as well in order to be able to talk to those specifically for the major. All right, so great. And engineering and College of Environmental Design as well as College of Chemistry have the same format.
All right.
So Mickey,
do
you want to go back
question
to
about
that question? About
testing?
COVID
Yeah.
testing?
So the question is, I'm confused about COVID testing and flu shot requirements for students in Berkeley, but not living on campus. Of course you are. It is confusing. So just wanted to affirm, yeah, it is confusing. It's been changing as we adapt to public health, to our access to testing. We were actually just talking about that before you all joined us, is what are university plans? So completely understand the confusion. So I just want to validate that. And I think probably as a parent or your students, maybe while you all have received 1 million emails over the summer, your student has, you may not feel like you have all the answers. And know that there are folks behind the scenes working frantically and also having to pivot when something else changes with testing results or who's moving in or housing, bed capacities, all of that. So just wanted to say that first. Second, when it comes to COVID testing for students not living in university residence halls, it is not required. If your student, though, it is in Berkeley and experiencing symptoms, they have the ability to get that test. First, we're asking folks to call the University Health Services call line so that they can triage and work with your student and then be able to work and coordinate with them on that testing process. The hope is that we're going to be having access to be able to test everyone, even those who are asymptomatic, but that process is still in flux. I recently believe I saw an email about flu shots as well. I'm going to be honest though, I've been in a little bit of a Golden Bear orientation bubble focusing on that last week. So I think the hope is that may become a request or requirement similar to TB requirements. But my knowledge is that is not required or being checked at this moment. I don't know if that is going to be a plan going forward. David, if you know any other information.
I believe the deadline is in November
Right.
to have flu shot, and I think the explanation on the email from their University Health Services is just to try to not have all the health services being impacted as much as, and if we can help at all with mitigating some of these some of the flu symptoms and stuff, if we can mitigate that with some flu shots. It's what they're trying to get done. All right. So before we have a couple more questions here, but I'd like to, one of the things that we have our parents on the line for is because they have a certain experience that they'd like to share as well with you. And one of the questions I have for them is, parents, how did you feel when your student came home? Did you see them as a full-time student away, or did you feel that they were just home, just being home as usual? And what did your student feel about that as well? Greg, let's start with you.
All right, so my daughter was a transfer, and she also was a commuter. So the transition from going to the community college, then going to the UC, her working on the UC campus was really very clean and happened, and she just really, really enjoyed it. So then subsequently to that, and let me add this. In her 4 semesters at Cal, she had 1 semester that was fully intact. We had fires and smoke, we had PG&E shutdowns, and then we had COVID. So there was only 1 semester in there that she had a full academic semester without something going on. So this is feeling kind of normal for me. She's become a human being. She's become an adult. She's become responsible. We coordinate schedules, and I kind of look at it that there's a relax. Do you need help with anything? We talk about what her class is, but it's been a really, really easy transition. That's all I can basically say. Hopefully that answered the question.
Clayton?
Yeah, similar to Greg, you know, our son experienced fires, PG breakdowns, the whole 9 yards. I think we really respected, you know, Kyle's time being a student. You know, he had his own life, came home, and I think, you know, he was able to have time to take classes, do his homework, you know, meet with friends as best possible. And so I think that made it a lot easier because we really did respect his time as a student from that standpoint there. And also during the summer, he took an online class, did a remote internship. So he was able to do that. Obviously, he's back on campus as off-campus student and really wanted to go back to have some experience. But, you know, we did respect that time.
Thank you. Lisa?
Yes, so I have a senior. Well, I guess last year they were a junior and a freshman. They both came home in March in different ways. But what I was telling David a little earlier is that after our younger one left for college, we became empty nesters. And so when March came around, I got really used to, it took a little while, but you know, by spring, you get used to not having anybody around. We actually converted rooms, changed up some stuff. The dog became an only child. And then suddenly, they wanted to come home. And the younger one first, and then the older one. And so we kind of took cues from them, actually, knowing that they wanted to set up their space differently than before, and then offering any other space in the home that was kind of separate from the sleeping area, so that we asked, did you want to set up like a little study area? And we did have to develop a little system as to when we could be loud and when we could talk to each other, because also my husband ended up working from home. And my 24-year-old, who had not lived at home for 5 years, had to come home because he lost his job due to all the COVID changes. So we had to actually develop a system. And yes, we did not enforce any bedtimes. There were no, I mean, they didn't go out, but in a sense, there were no curfews for computer usage or what. I mean, yes, there were lots of legal legends along with the studying, but we trusted them, and we kind of, it's something that we have to talk about. We talked about it a lot because, you know, we suddenly became 5 plus a dog. And so it was, we had to let them make their decisions and respect that. And then in the same vein, I think that they really respected us, knowing that they were back in our household. So there was a give and take, but it is quite different when they come back as grown-ups and have opinions and needs. So.
Well, great, thank you. There's a question here about paying tuition. Are we going to have our own parents' account to log into and switch bank accounts? Or so basically, what you'd like to do is have your student give you what we call delegate access, and a delegate access to the finances. There's 3 things they can give you access to: registration, grades, and payment, and billing and payment services. And so if they go onto their calcentral.berkeley.edu and they sign up, they're already signed up because that's how they do all their administrative work on the campus. They just need to go and make you a delegate. If they make you a delegate and they put for the finances, you're going to get an email telling you when things are due, and if there's something on their account that needs to be paid or what have you. You will have access to that. You'll create your own login, and you'll be able to sign in on your own and take care of that. So yes, there is that option. Okay, so we're looking at more questions here.
Hey, David, can I just ask to follow up on your answer, because this is such a common question about delegate access. So does the parent then need to check off like the 3 levels? Does the student need to give you access to registration, grades, and payment services separately, or is one access?
Each one is a separate box that they check.
Okay.
They can check your registration so you can see that they're registered in school. They can check that you can see their grades, their final grades, not necessarily their in progress grades. It's not like School Loop or any of the high school programs that we've all used. And they can also click you for finances. So if you have just finances, you'll just get alerts to when a bill's available or what's due. And then the other 3 are the same. They'll alert you when something's going on. So I hope that helps.
Yep. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah. I got a question, and so one of the parents. Let me ask you this question: how can we comfort our kids when they are so ready to go to college and they are stuck at home? And Kaylin, you know what? You're a student as well. Why don't you can answer that as well? Or how would you like to be comforted?
Yeah, I can totally talk about that. So, I don't know, for me, just the biggest thing that I realized I missed was, the freedom to get to do whatever I wanted and just having my own space. So one thing that my parents were really, really great about was making sure that I did have my own space. And like, I've still not handled things super well, I'll be honest. I really, really miss going to college. I really miss being a student at UC Berkeley. And I am staying at home for the entire semester. So that was really hard for me to handle. And my parents were just very matter of fact about it. I think they didn't sugarcoat it or anything, which is something I really appreciated. They really treated me like an adult throughout the entire thing. We're like, hey, we'd love for you to go back, but it's just not possible right now. It's not safe for you. It's too expensive. So I think for me, the biggest way that I wanted to be comforted was just to be treated like an adult, be treated with the facts rather than like, oh, it's going to be okay, which is like, that can be helpful to some extent. But I think just getting that ability to feel like I'm still my own person was the biggest thing for me.
Great, thank you.
I think I will echo on that as a parent, it is really important to give your child their space. I think first, they were excited to go away and then forced to come home, basically, and separated from all their friends. So I think physically giving them space And then emotionally and mentally saying to myself, you know, my husband and I would have conversation, we would retreat and not, I mean, they were great about having dinner with us. I was so excited to cook everyone's favorite meals. It was like Thanksgiving and Christmas all rolled into one that first week. Then we realized, hey, we need to give them space. We would carry on our schedule and our routines. And we didn't force anybody to like, you want to do this or you want to do, you know, we realized that they couldn't go out. So how were they going to have a social life? So when they would close their doors and say, you know what, they would go on calls with their friends. Each of my kids have a home church that they go to at Berkeley, and there are really tight-knit groups in those larger groups. And amazingly, and Kayla, you probably experienced this, the students wanted to have time together. So they would get on a Zoom call together, or they would they would have an activity. One of my sons had a group where they would teach each other how to cook their favorite meals. So you kind of just realize you need to give them freedom for all those things and not have a bunch of questions like when they were in high school or middle school, like, why are you doing that? Why do you need to buy that? Why do I need to give? Just really, wow, okay, I'm gonna give you space. I'm gonna give you time, and I'm here if you need me. So hopefully that helps.
Anyone else? Well, I had my daughter come home from school, and it was really tough. It was tough for her because she wanted her own time, and we gave her absolutely whatever you need. However, we are in a pandemic, so they're not going anywhere. But there were times when she had to be online, and we had to all be quiet. And there was 5 of us in the house, and so we give priority to the students who are on a Zoom call, especially for their classes. So that I would just be empathetic and understand that they have their needs as well. And if they have to go outside and shout, allow them. Go do what you got to do. I think sometimes that's good emotionally for them to let go of the things that are bugging them, and because it's a real issue. So thanks for that question. Clayton, did you have something else to add to that?
I would echo what everyone said, and also I think just encourage them, and you know, Lisa mentioned this, activities, because as the fall starts, and Kyle's already told me this, there are a lot of clubs doing online activities. So I think encouraging them, just similar, like, you know, if you're coming to campus, being active, being involved, asking for help. So the basic principles that they would navigate as a freshman probably hold true, if not a little bit more, online, because you're going to, you know, it's so easy to get just isolated, quote unquote. So I think it's important, reach out, take some risks, and build that community. It's very challenging. I don't want to kid anyone on that. On the other hand, I think all the good news is you've got 8,000, you know, first-year students trying to also form communities. So I think you need to take advantage of that and you know, work with campus ambassadors and whatever cohorts you can do to build that community, and then have that extended hopefully the second year where we're all back on campus.
Great, thank you.
Let me
why don't
add
you?
one last thing, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure, Greg.
And this is going to be like, oh my God, we're in the middle of a pandemic. How am I going to do this? Think about the technology that you have in your house. When the pandemic hit and my kids couldn't go to school anymore, we had 5 of us using the internet router at the same time. We upgraded our Comcast to the highest bandwidth, to the highest amount of data. We upgraded 1 or 2 of the computers around here, the screens. Think about it from a practical standpoint, is the technology in the house enough to support things? We had to put a sign on our microwave. It says, do not use when anyone's on a Zoom. And that means anyone's on, you know, they're either having a meeting for their work, they're having class, they're doing a group session for a club or anything. We have to go around and be very, very cognizant that we had 3 college students going at the same time. Plus I've worked from home for 20 years. We had to upgrade. It was expensive, but it was probably worth it.
Great. That's a great take on that as well. Mickey, you're involved. You just went through all the different GBO opportunities. How are students getting engaged with the club scene and all the different stuff? How is that being presented to the new students who are not on campus?
I think it's important to know, and we had a question before about how many students are on campus, not, and I think really to normalize that only about 20% of our incoming first years and 6-7% of our incoming transfers are living in university residence halls. The vast majority are living at home, and home could be Southern California. It could be Contra Costa County, just, you know, it could be Florida, it could be China. And so one thing that is very important, I think it's why we made this decision for Golden Bear orientation, why the state of California has put directives out that there will be no in-person events. There should be no in-person events hosted by student organizations. And that messaging is going out through our lead center who supports our student organizations. We've hopefully modeled that within Golden Bear orientation, that all of that small group in that community was virtual, because we don't want for a student who made the choice to come to campus, they're going to have that support of their RAs and the other folks there in the university residence halls. But we wanted everyone to have access. Having Berkeley be open and engaged is, I think, a principle of this campus and this community of access to support. So all of our student organizations are pivoting. We're actually having Calapalooza is, I believe, next week. It's events that normally we have a huge tabling event. Probably the least social distance event in the history of Berkeley on top of sporting events. So it's converted to a multiple day event on our CalLink platform, which hosts our student organizations. And there was a lot of information that we shared with your students during Golden Bear orientation. This was part of it, assuming they engaged. There's a whole session that we're going to be posting the recording of that the Lead Center hosted about student organization engagement, about Greek life. So your students, maybe they were able to attend that this Sunday. If not, we're posting all the recordings of all the sessions. We're not posting small group meetings because we want to maintain that privacy from all of our students, but all of those sessions. And we're going to be doing that outreach. I think we're going to have to adapt and change. I think Clayton said this, of students are going to have to reach out. And this is not unique to a Berkeley virtual semester. All students, incoming students, continuing students, you have to do the outreach. Berkeley will not, while there's been a ton of outreach, student organizations aren't going to say, hey, you're our perfect member. That's just not how it works. It requires each of our students to reach out, to say, to explore, to use their voice, and to advocate. And I think that's really no different. The method of doing that is different. So one thing for students to explore student organizations is CalLink. We have one single website through our Lead Center that hosts all of our student organizations. And if there's one that they're thinking they want to be a part of and they don't see it, they can actually create it. So there's so much opportunities there. And I think as a campus, we're hoping to do a lot more outreach, maybe continue engaging with those GBO small groups. I've been so thankful for the work of our colleges that during Golden Bear orientation, all of their programming was really focused on community and that smaller connection and how you engage. So I think it's also will take each of your students taking the advice that they've been given by continuing students, by faculty, by staff, to use their voice as well, which can be hard in this setting. It's really easy just to turn off the camera and step back. But one hopefully message we were hoping to answer is really just everyone else is in the same boat of wanting to understand and to learn, and so that they're not the only one trying to figure things out. And I think kind of going back to that, maybe kindergarten, like, hey, I'm Mickey, want to be my friend? And that's okay. We're all in that same space. So I'm gonna see if Kaylin can add in, what has that been like for her as a student?
Yeah, so everything that you all are saying, I absolutely agree with. Like my freshman experience, when I started at Cal, I very much so had to go out and, you know, reach out, find friends, and it's the exact same now. I find everything out through Facebook. That's where pretty much every event that I've ever seen goes. I also think a really, really great way to get involved is to actually apply for a student government office. Those are really, really easy ways to just connect, work on something that feels meaningful. And all those applications are out now. I'm going to be a part of an office that I'm really, really excited about. And I've just had a wonderful experience with that in particular. Calapalooza, also wonderful, just going through all of the different organizations and almost randomly picking is not a bad way to go about it. Just pick something that seems interesting, check it out for a couple weeks. If it's not your thing, or if it's, sorry, not your student's thing, then they can move on. I mean, that's one of the really cool things about Cal is that there's so many things to get involved in. All you have to do is just pick one, see how it goes, and then keep trying from there.
I want to ask a question of Greg. Greg, there was a question earlier about transfer students. How do they get engaged? What would you recommend and the timing of their engagement with student groups? Can you speak to that from your student?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a portion, a building in campus that is dedicated to transfer students called TSC, Transfer Student Center. But there's also programs that this program is associated with, which is kind of like all of the non-traditional students. There is a center there for parent students who are parents. There is a program there for students who have been out of the high school or out of the educational system. They're over 25. There's different resources for them. There's a program called Underground Scholars. Those are scholars who've gotten into Berkeley who were either children who were affected by the incarceration system or they themselves have been incarcerated. This whole program works together and it's an amazing group and cannot say enough about them. So for the transfer students is immediately jump on there and go onto the campus thing and say Transfer Student Center, TSC, and see what programs they have. Sign up for the events. It's a resource that is amazing that students can get involved. When to do it? As soon as possible. There should have been stuff available to them if they came in from certain community colleges. There was stuff available last semester and the semester before to get involved. Cannot encourage enough to do that. If you get involved with them, that will become your family.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, Dave.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would like to add one point to what Greg said. So I work with the Cal Veterans Group because I was in ROTC, and most of the Cal veterans are transfer students just by definition because they usually go through junior college and service. So when I was working with them, a lot of them had apprehension of going to, the regular campus groups because they're primarily freshmen, sophomores joining. I think COVID could be a unique opportunity for transfer students to go join these clubs because you really don't know who the people around you are, if they're younger, older, whatever the case may be. Because we're always trying to help the veterans move into the mainstream of the campus by joining a lot of different clubs. And I think this is a unique opportunity where they can do that without having any of that social pressure. When they walk into a room, not everyone's, looking, because people in the service could be 5 years out of the, could be 22 years old or 23 years old. So I think that's a unique opportunity. The second thing is as a parent, as you look at your student, they're at home, their first month should be pretty busy because my son, his first month was really busy between classes, interviewing with clubs, because I don't know if club interviews will continue, checking out clubs. It was a pretty busy period. So you really want that, because usually the clubs, and Mika might know more, but usually within the first 30 to 60 days, the clubs get all their enrollments. I don't know if that's changed or not. And so they need to be really active in going to those outreach, attending those Zoom orientations, joining the clubs, because Kyle didn't have enough time to visit all the clubs because he had conflicts between classes, student group meetings, and then, going through the, orientations with those clubs. So, if you look at your student and they're at home, they should be pretty busy. That's my advice. And just, that's kind of a mental or emotional check. If they're not busy, something's up. That's just my personal opinion.
Great.
Clayton, Greg, agree with you 100%. All amazing things. We'll see if any of the orgs extend recruitment beyond those first 2 months. I think things could be up in flex, but I know that folks are really excited to engage. I think we're excited. Our student parents might be able to engage. This actually virtual world is also serving students with disabilities in actually a lot of better ways, and actually allowing us as a campus to see how we maybe weren't serving certain populations of students the right way in the first place, and actually challenging us to be better. So I'm hopeful for that. We've had quite a few questions about residence life, sequester, what does that mean, pods, eating, all of that. So I'm going to dive in and hopefully give you some context. Maybe some of you, I actually got an email from a parent being like, my student's in their hall and they see other people out and they thought they're supposed to stay in. And they're now worried that they're not the one making friends. Okay, so the expectation is for anyone living in the residence halls, if they're coming into those in the buildings where it's kind of those single units, not apartments, is they should be in those spaces. They're able to obviously go outside, get fresh air, which I know is a whole other level of complication with the fires going on near us, and go down and get their meals, which are all grab and go. The intention then is that once all that testing, there's going to be a second round of testing, about 7 days, and hopefully another one as well, is to say, hey, are folks okay? Are we sure that folks at this point do not have the virus? And if they do, that's okay. I think we're also not trying to shame students for something that could be happening. And so I'll pop in a second about what happens if someone has a positive case in the residence halls. But it is the expectation for our students in the residence halls to not be meeting in groups outside in the lounges, all of that, that's why we did all of these programming with Golden Bear Orientation. Even their meetings with RAs were virtual in the beginning, because we just want to make sure we brought in almost 2,000 students from around the globe. That's a lot. And many of you all came with them and pressed elevator buttons and moved buckets. And, there's just a lot of humans. And so just, if you look at just public health, the likelihood of spreading of something, we worked really hard to clean things out, but it requires each of your students to engage. And I've talked with students like, well, I'm here now, I'm not going to be sick. I'm younger. And so we're also asking students, though, it's not just about you. And I think this is a greater Berkeley message of how you care for that community. We're seeing actually a lot from our seniors of saying, hey, all you newer students, lock it up, stay in. And I know it can be really hard to feel like I'm in college, I'm even in my residence halls, why shouldn't I be allowed to go see other folks? By doing that, and I understand that need, is you are putting other folks at risk, including the staff who cannot leave. It's their staff's home, our RAs who are literally giving of their time and their experience. And so the intention is if folks engage and stay in that space for that shorter time, we know that maybe the virus isn't in those spaces, then we can open up and have those pods of community, still following public health guidelines of wearing masks, of social distancing. So it's very possible that we've had conversations with students already of like, hey, we're just asking you to hang inside. As we work through this as a community. I know our seniors are very eager to be able to return in the spring, to have an in-person spring semester, and that requires everyone to engage. So I've seen that from our current students of challenging our new students. And I would also ask our new students who are staying in, they may feel a little lonely, knowing that there's tons of programming going on through Getting Your Bearings. Classes will start. They can hopefully have something hanging out with their orientation leaders throughout the last couple of days, is to know that this small amount of time on their own can hopefully lead to a whole lot more opportunities in that Berkeley community that they signed up for. So we're asking for that engagement for all the students. So if your students are out running around, maybe you can challenge them. I wouldn't be surprised though if current students and other new students are also doing that same thing. I think that's how we like to operate for a lot of behaviors in community. You're part of a new community, and asking for accountability across the board. I know I'm ready to go back to work. I would love to. I miss my coworkers and not seeing them on the screen. But I'm a part of that community, and I'm relying on students in the residence halls to make those choices for me that impact my life as well. So all those things that we're asking of them. Hope that covered the gambit of housing questions.
Yes, thank you. There's a lot of questions, and so we're I hope you guys all understand that we have students also answering your questions, students who are actively working as campus ambassadors who know a lot about campus, who are also answering questions. One of the things that came up was how does a new parent get involved? How do they find new stuff? I'm gonna call on Rose to talk about that. Rose, you there?
Sorry, I had to just unmute myself. Just like we have student ambassadors who serve as tour guides and resource for students on campus, we have a Cal Parents Ambassador program. So as I mentioned, 3 of the Cal Parent Ambassadors are with us here today. And if you're interested, you can go to our calparents.berkeley website. So it's calparents.berkeley.edu. We can put up the link /ambassadors, and you can sign up there to indicate that you're interested in volunteering. You get added to a mailing list, and we send you out a newsletter with volunteer opportunities. And this newsletter comes out about every other month, give or take. This semester is a little bit different. And the type of opportunities, a lot of them are engaging with incoming or prospective parents, like this event is today. So it could be coming onto campus, working at the food pantry. I'm actually going to be on campus tomorrow with one of our Cal Parents board members who's in town from New York, and the 2 of us are going to be helping to distribute grocery bags to our students in need. So it could be something on campus, or it could be something that you can do remotely. Like make welcome calls to incoming families. In the springtime, after admissions makes their decision, you might want to work at an admitted student reception, partner with admissions, and talk to those prospective parents and the new students. So there's all sorts of different opportunities like those that occur year round. So we partner with lots of different campus units like financial aid when it comes to interviews for Regent Chancellor scholarships. We also partner with rec sports on some activities, and we partner with admissions. So those are just a few. And also the other side of our office is really asking for philanthropic support. So if you're used to being involved in your student's school, you want to get involved, in our board, you want to help us fundraise, then you can reach out to us at the Parent Philanthropy and Engagement Office.
Great, thank you, Rose. Nikki, why don't you finish off? I think you had something else you wanted to finish off with from your last.
Forgot we had a question too about the question, what happens if my student gets sick or someone near them gets sick? So thank you for asking that follow-up question. So we actually have an entire protocol and space and staff kind of working on all of this. So if someone tests positive, which is very possible, this activates a whole team within residence halls, our university health services, and public health to kind of coordinate. We have an entire unit called the Foothill complex up on the kind of the top part of the hill of campus that's actually been designated as isolation spaces. So, because we know it's how do you quarantine when there's shared restrooms? How do you get food if you're supposed to quarantine? Like these big questions, right? So we've worked to be able to move students to those spaces. And there's actual full-time staff, literally around the clock, who are going to be coordinating things like, how does that student engage in classes? How do they get testing again? How do we get students their food? How do we get students bedding? All of those things. How do we connect them with the Tank Center? So that's plans that our university has been working on. Many different folks involved in that for months now. And so that space is available and being used. And the really intention to also is then to kind of execute contact tracing. And I know there's fear of students of what if I'm sick? I don't want to tell who else I was around. I don't want to get folks in trouble. I don't want to feel like I am isolated. But know that like the value of that is being able to help students get those health services and share that. So there's even a great article in the Berkeley News with our Director of Health, Dr. Anna Hart, about what that looked like. We had a few cases pop up in June, July, and then the process that came in really quickly to identify, to look at contact tracing, and to be able to kind of give folks access to quarantine spaces so those things don't spread. So that was able to actually kind of be a little bit of a dry run for us, and we were able to actually see cases then drop after that point. So I'm feeling very thankful for my incredible colleagues across campus who are taking this so intentionally. So that I wanted to clarify with that.
Great, thank you. Clayton, you had a little bit more to add.
Yeah, I saw some parents indicate they're concerned, what happens if the students don't have time in the fall, they get busy. my son Kyle joined most of his clubs in the second semester for a variety of reasons. So I don't think parents have to be too concerned. And second, I think based upon the fact that most of the classes are remote and the students, are not on campus for the most part, I think the clubs, if they go back in spring, and Mickey can address this better, I think they will definitely be very excited to have more students come onto their club. So I think it will be a very active spring side. I don't think parents have to be too concerned about the fall if their students are not that active.
And even now, I think the clubs are reaching out to students very actively. So I'm sure, even parents you can follow, students can follow the different groups on Instagram. I would follow Daily Cal because some of the clubs are advertising through Daily Cal about what they're doing. And, follow the UC Berkeley website, Instagram account. Just they all from time to time will highlight the different student groups. So I know all those groups are currently very active about looking out for those that are living in the dorms. And if anyone has a question, I have heard this personally, there were some questions about sequestering. And for anyone that doesn't know, Foothill is at the north end of the campus, but it's not far away. Your child isn't going to be like left all alone with no one to look after. My older son lived at Foothill his freshman year, and he got great exercise walking up all those steps. But it's not like it's way up and no one will know that they're up there. So I think just to put people's mind at ease, and I actually think that that's a great place for that utilization this fall. So
Great. So we're coming to the end of this great hour of questions and answers, and I want to thank everyone for coming. And I'm going to ask all our panelists to go back and give. If there's one thing you need to give new parents, what would you tell them? Okay.
I can see that, yeah, that there's a lot of thought going on.
I would say, first of all, leave your kid alone. That's my first advice. Second of all is, they will call you. It's occasionally good to just touch in from time to time. And obviously be positive. There are going to be ups and downs, especially with this semester, like in all semesters. And I think you just need to be encouraging them that they're getting a great education. They're with really a lot of bright people, and they're in a great university is. And I think, the whole world is going through this. And I think they need to put things in perspective. They're very fortunate. A lot of people, I say this from a public policy standpoint because Cal is such a social campus. You have 30 million Americans out of work, worried about what they're going to do next for a job. And they are incredibly well off comparative to the average, and they just need to be learning and experiencing so they can contribute to make this a better world.
So I was going to just say, let go. That was my first answer. This is their education. It's not ours as parents. We have to be supportive. We have to be encouraging. We have to be there to help them. But ultimately, at this point on, it's them. Let them do it.
Thanks,
I would
Lisa.
definitely agree with that. Yeah, let them grow up, whether they're at home or whether you've brought them back to the dorms or they're in apartments. Let them make those choices if at all possible. I know right now they can't make all the choices, but let them be a college student. Let them be grown up. Then let yourself be okay to separate from them. Take time for yourself. I will just jump in here and talk about it, David, but my husband and I started a tradition a few years ago where after we dropped the kids off at college, we took a day for ourselves. We splurged a little bit. We would stop at some place and spend the night and just kind of go, okay, time to shift gear. Like, it's a change of season for everyone, and it's okay to have a hard time with changes. but it's okay to separate and, love them. And I would say, even if they're still living at home, create some sort of have a weekly check-in, like Clayton says. It's okay to have that. Make it a Sunday night thing, but that's what we do. Every Sunday night, no matter where you are, you check in. I don't care if it's 2 minutes, if it's 5 minutes. Hey, Mom, I'm good. Thanks, I love you. So be good to them, be good to yourself.
That's great advice, all of you. Thank you so much. On behalf of the Cal Parents and Families Program, as well as New Student Services, I want to thank you for joining us. And like our parents said, it's our students' opportunity to go and to achieve and to be who they're going to be. They're going to fall down, but they're going to have to pick themselves up, whether they're at home, whether they're on campus, wherever they're at. This is part of life, and this is part of Berkeley life. We encourage independent thinking, and we encourage our students to become independent, because when they get into the workforce, they don't need kid gloves. They're ready to go. We've heard that from a lot of recruiters on our campus. So please allow your student to enjoy it, get in there, engage, and if they don't know something, ask for it. Go out, go ask your professor, GSI, or anybody. Go out and get the information. So on behalf of all of us, to all of you, thank you very much for joining us. And as we say at Berkeley, Fiat Lux and go Bears.
Go Bears.
Bears.
Go Bears.
Go Bears.
Go Bears.